On September 21st, 1996, an event that stemmed not from teenage rebellion, but rather from a desire for self-care, culminated in a tragic murder. 15-year-old Danielle Hutchins, seeking solitude after a family dispute, requested her mother's permission to drive to the Cameron Bridge fishing access site. She departed from her home in Belgrade, Montana, around 11 a.m., heading to the serene nature preserve just a few miles away, an ideal spot to decompress following a minor conflict. Known affectionately as Dany by her loved ones, she was well acquainted with the area, having visited Cameron Bridge on previous occasions. This location was a popular choice among locals for accessing extensive wade fishing areas. During the early autumn, regular visitors noted that the cottonwood trees would shed their fluffy tufts, creating a picturesque scene reminiscent of snowflakes drifting along the banks of the Gallatin River. When Dany failed to return home as anticipated, her mother became worried and sought assistance from a family friend to initiate a search for her daughter. She recalled that Dany was dressed in blue jeans and a gray sweatshirt, and she had a knee brace on her left leg due to a recent injury sustained while dancing at a street festival. Upon arriving at the preserve, they were distressed to find Dany's unlocked truck in the parking lot, with her water bottle and car keys nearby. After 2 hours of searching the area in vain, they contacted the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office around 5 p.m. to report Dany missing. Local search and rescue teams, along with community volunteers, promptly arrived to continue the search, which extended into the night. The dim lighting significantly heightened the risks associated with navigating the wooded and marshy landscape, leading to the decision to halt the search without any clues regarding the teen's whereabouts or the possibility of her having encountered more sinister circumstances. The family, now in a state of distress, expressed their gratitude when 2 local brothers stepped in to continue the search out of sheer goodwill. These brothers were familiar with the area and were motivated to assist after one of their children, a friend of Danielle's sister, encouraged them to help. After about 45 minutes of searching the increasingly dark surroundings, one of the brothers was horrified to discover Dany's lifeless body face down in a shallow pool of water. An autopsy performed on September 23, 1996, revealed that the medical examiner found muddy material in the teenager's stomach. This same substance was also detected in her upper and lower airways, suggesting that she likely fought back and may have been forced into the ground, inhaling the damp earth in the process. Tragically, the autopsy report also indicated a recent laceration to her private parts, pointing to a sexual assault. Additionally, her gold watch with an elastic band was found partially over her hand, implying she had been dragged by that arm. The medical examiner observed that her clothing was disarranged, with her bra pushed above her breasts and her underwear rolled in a manner that suggested she had been moved or dragged in a way that disturbed her garments. Unsurprisingly, the autopsy confirmed what her family and friends had suspected, that the well-mannered and diligent teen had no traces of alcohol or drugs in her system. In a shocking turn of events, however, a state medical examiner later concluded that Dany had drowned, categorizing her death not as a homicide, much to the dismay and disbelief of those involved. The classification of the case complicated the investigation by diverting attention from potential foul play, which may have resulted in overlooked evidence or insufficient scrutiny of suspects. Labeling her death as unknown diminished the urgency and resources dedicated to the case, creating significant obstacles in identifying a suspect. Ultimately, the lack of leads or new developments caused the case to grow cold. In 2019, the sheriff's office opted to revitalize their investigation. This decision initially reopened old wounds, as Dany's family had developed considerable distrust towards law enforcement due to the previous classification and handling of the case. Even former officers involved expressed frustration over the initial investigation, with some suggesting a systemic lack of urgency in pursuing a suspect. The former sheriff, Sheriff Slaughter, defended the investigation, asserting that detectives treated it as a homicide, despite public statements implying otherwise. However, Dany's family contends that law enforcement never communicated their intention to investigate the teen's death as a homicide. Stephanie Mollett, the victim's sister, who was just 12 at the time, recalls the police response following the crime, stating, "What my parents took away from the law enforcement investigation was, well, it could have been just an accident." In 2021, after more than 25 years of uncertainty, Dan Springer, the newly appointed Gallatin County Sheriff, made a pivotal decision to enlist 2 outside experts from California to aid in the investigation. He brought on private investigator Tom Elfmont, a retired officer from the Los Angeles Police Department, and Sergeant Court Depweg, a forensic DNA specialist. Elfmont was officially appointed as a special service deputy, and together with his colleague, they reviewed the evidence collected in 1996. In August 2023, the Sheriff's Department announced what they described as new findings. However, those familiar with the case suspect it was more a re-evaluation of previous evidence. Consequently, the classification of Dany's death was officially altered from undetermined to homicide. The 2 deputies ultimately obtained 4 rootless human hair strands that had been gathered from Dany's body at the crime scene. These strands were forwarded to Parabon Nanolabs in Virginia, where they were utilized to develop a partial DNA profile. This profile was then handed over to renowned genetic genealogist C.C. Moore, who is a leader in the application of autosomal DNA. Moore serves as the chief genetic genealogist for Parabon Nanolabs, overseeing their genetic genealogy services for law enforcement, and has an impressive track record of over 200 successful identifications of violent offenders since the unit's inception. Her approach involves matching DNA from a suspect with samples voluntarily provided by family members, enabling law enforcement to construct a more comprehensive family tree than what could be achieved through databases like the Combined DNA Index System alone. Ultimately, after thorough testing and confirmations, authorities identified 55-year-old Paul Hutchinson as a potential suspect. On July 23, 2024, investigators Elfmont and Depweg conducted an interview with Hutchinson, who was residing approximately 100 miles away in Dillon, Montana, but had lived in Bozeman at the time of Dany's death. Elfmont noted that Hutchinson appeared visibly shaken when they introduced themselves and explained the purpose of their visit. The interview proceeded for nearly 2 hours, during which Hutchinson exhibited significant anxiety. Investigators observed Hutchinson closely as he displayed signs of increasing agitation. His forehead was slick with sweat. He frequently scratched his face, and in a particularly disturbing gesture, he began to chew on his hand. The atmosphere in the room intensified when detectives showed him a photograph of Dany. His reaction was immediate and telling. He sank back into his chair, appearing overwhelmed, with his body language clearly indicating discomfort and anxiety. Hutchinson, who had no prior history with law enforcement, was a seasoned fisheries biologist with the Bureau of Land Management in Dillon. His role involved the conservation and management of fish populations and their habitats, including research, monitoring aquatic ecosystems, and executing habitat restoration projects. A passionate outdoorsman and devoted family man, he had been married for 22 years and had 2 adult children. At the time of Dany's tragic and seemingly random murder, Hutchinson was a student at Montana State University in Bozeman. Detectives suspect that the attack was unplanned, suggesting that Hutchinson likely encountered the 15-year-old by chance at the fishing access site, where she was thought to be alone. The sexual assault and subsequent murder were likely a crime of opportunity by an evil man. Despite the slight resemblance in their surnames, detectives found no personal or professional link between the 55-year-old and Paul Hutchinson, who would have been in his late 20s at the time of the crime. When authorities informed the victim's family of the newly identified suspect, Dany's sister expressed her initial relief that the perpetrator was not someone known to Dany or her family. She reflected, stating, "It wasn't someone where we'd not only have to deal with everything that goes along with solving your sister's homicide case, but also that feeling of betrayal if it was her friend or family friend or community member." In a shocking turn of events, Hutchinson tragically ended his own life a mere 10 hours after being interviewed by investigators. In the early hours of July 24th, 2024, he reached out to the Beaverhead County Sheriff's Office, indicating he required assistance before abruptly disconnecting the call. Responding deputies discovered the 55-year-old on the roadside, where he was later pronounced dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. In the days that followed, DNA evidence collected from Hutchinson was found to match that obtained from Dany's body, leading the sheriff's department to declare 100% confirmation of Paul Hutchinson's role as the perpetrator. At the time of his suicide, his family remained oblivious to his connection to the infamous local tragedy, as he had meticulously concealed his inner turmoil from them. Nearly 3 decades later, Danielle's family was able to piece together another fragment of the sorrow they had long endured. Dany's sister issued a poignant statement to the media, reflecting on the complex emotions surrounding the revelations. After nearly 28 years without justice, we find a reason to celebrate today. Although this man will evade a jury's judgment, I am certain he was the one who brutally and violently assaulted my sister, ultimately holding her head down in a marsh until she suffocated in mud. When confronted with the need to confront his actions, he chose instead to take his own life. He was acutely aware of his guilt and could not bear to face either my family or his own, nor the anguish he had inflicted. Terry McAdams was a lively 22-year-old residing in Arlington, Texas, celebrated for her beauty, vivacity, and enthusiasm for life. From an early age, she enjoyed a wide circle of friends. As a teenager, she was often seen driving her convertible, complete with an 8-track music player, making her the preferred choice for rides among her peers and sisters. After completing her studies at the University of Arkansas, where she met her fiancé, Terry relocated to Arlington to be with him and further her education. She enrolled at the University of Texas in Arlington, eager to achieve her academic aspirations. However, on Valentine's Day in February 1985, a devastating event occurred. Arlington police responded to a call at 2525 Walnut Hill Circle, the apartment of her fiancé, where Terry had been living for the past 2 months. Inside, maintenance workers discovered her lifeless body in the corner of her bedroom. An autopsy indicated that she had been sexually assaulted and brutally beaten to death with a blunt object. It was concluded that her murder took place either on the night of February 13th or in the early hours of February 14th. Although the police did not recover a murder weapon, they suspected that a hammer or similar blunt instrument was used. A filtered cigarette butt was found at the scene, despite neither resident being a smoker. Investigators determined that the assailant had gained entry through a sliding glass door, leaving a distinctive footprint outside. Authorities worked to reconstruct Terry McAdams' activities leading up to her death. On February 13th, around 4 p.m., she left the University of Texas at Arlington to change clothes at home. She made several stops, including a visit to the Safeway grocery store on East Lamar, where she was preparing to bake a cake for her fiancé for Valentine's Day, and also stopped by a cleaner's. Records indicated that Terry was present at Safeway around 6:30 p.m., as evidenced by a cash register tape retrieved by the police. Investigators interviewed individuals who had been in the store that evening, hoping to uncover any unusual observations, but no significant leads emerged. At the time of her passing, Terry's fiancé was away on a business trip with plans to return later that day. The couple was scheduled to marry in a few months. He was swiftly cleared as a suspect. Upon the discovery of Terry's body, it was noted that her $5,000 engagement ring was missing. Authorities suspected that the assailant had taken the ring and distributed 250 flyers to local pawn shops in the Fort Worth and Dallas regions, as well as to gold and silver exchanges. Yet the ring was never located. For nearly 4 decades, Arlington police and Terry's family posed numerous questions but received limited answers, leading the case to grow cold. In 2021, the Arlington police reopened the investigation, sending physical evidence, including a sexual assault kit, fingernail clippings, and a cigarette butt, to a DNA lab for analysis. From these well-preserved items, a profile of an unidentified male was created and entered into combined DNA index system, but it did not yield a match. In August 2023, Arlington police contacted the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Dallas field office to determine if Terry's case could be pursued through the investigative genetic genealogy process. This method integrates unidentified crime scene DNA, genealogical research, and public historical records to generate new leads for law enforcement. Genealogists successfully identified a distant relative, and subsequent DNA testing confirmed that 30-year-old Bernard Sharp was responsible for Terry's murder. Authorities believe that Sharp and Terry did not know each other, suggesting that the attack was random. Tragically, Sharp could not be prosecuted as he died by suicide in a double murder-suicide incident on November 3, 1985. In Arlington, Texas, Sharp tragically shot his estranged wife and her close friend, leaving his wife's cousin in critical condition. The injured cousin managed to seek assistance from a neighbor. According to police reports, Sharp forcibly entered the residence and lay in wait to ambush the women. He had previously been identified as a potential suspect in Terry's murder and had been interrogated. However, there was insufficient evidence to connect him to the crime. Living in proximity, Sharp had a history of multiple arrests, including a criminal record involving sexual assault against 2 other victims besides Terry. Authorities have indicated that they will persist in their investigation to determine if he may be linked to any other unresolved cases, and his DNA profile has been forwarded to both federal and state agencies. Although no charges will be pursued due to his death, law enforcement expressed hope that this development may bring some measure of closure to the family. The case has been deemed resolved after 39 years. On June 10, 2018, the atmosphere in Ohio was filled with optimism as the day began. The local Pizza Hut in St. Clairsville, Ohio, was bustling with its regular patrons, including Joni D. Davis and Brian Edgar Goff. The couple had a delightful dinner, and as they finished, Brian, the dedicated 64-year-old caretaker, escorted 55-year-old Joni to their light blue 1990 Oldsmobile 88 4-door sedan. However, after that moment, the whereabouts of the sedan and its occupants became a mystery, as they seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Ohio, a state shaped by the natural borders of Lake Erie and the Ohio River, offers a delightful blend of vibrant cities, unspoiled natural landscapes, and picturesque farms. Whether you're planning a short weekend getaway or a longer vacation, Ohio has plenty to offer. Proudly known as Ohioans, residents of this state enjoy a relatively affordable cost of living compared to other states. The Ohio River serves as a vital commercial route for residents of Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and Illinois. Little did they know that the Ohio River would conceal the lives of a lovely couple for over 3 years. Our tale begins right here in Ohio on September 21st, 1953, when Ralph and Olga Jean welcomed twin baby boys, Brian Edgar Goff and Colin Goff, in Martins Ferry, Ohio. After their mother's passing, Brian was raised by his great-aunt, Hannah Goff, on a farm near Martins Ferry. He later moved to Saybrook, Ohio, with his twin brother, older brother, and sister. Brian graduated from Harbor High School in Ashtabula, Ohio, in June 1971 and went on to work for Penn Central and Conrail Railroads in Cleveland and Mingo Junction. He eventually returned to the Martins Ferry area, where he shared a home with Colin and worked at Goff Trucking near Rayland. Brian was known for his loving, caring, and hard-working nature, always sporting a genuine smile. He cherished family gatherings and was a devoted fan of the Cleveland Browns and Cleveland Indians. In addition to all this, Brian dedicated himself to caring for Joni D. Davis, a loving sister to Jackie Newell and a doting aunt to her nephews, born to Jack and Joanne on July 20th, 1962. Joni and Brian, both esteemed healthcare workers, embarked on a beautiful relationship over 2 decades ago. Tragically, their love story took a complicated turn when Joni, at the age of 35, fell into a coma. After months of battling, Joni emerged from the shadows of unconsciousness, but the damage to her brain was irreversible, necessitating round-the-clock care. Brian, the epitome of unwavering devotion, assumed the role of Joni's caretaker without a second thought. Their unbreakable bond endured the test of time until the fateful year of 2018. The scorching June sun painted Ohio in breathtaking hues, setting the stage for a seemingly ordinary Sunday. Little did Brian and Joni know that their routine visit to Pizza Hut in St. Clairsville would mark the end of an era. As the clock struck 7 p.m., Brian led Joni to their vintage 1990 Oldsmobile 88, adorned with Ohio license plate EYA 7482. Their family anticipated the usual pit stops at the gas station, Reese Cups, and the lottery ticket outlet. However, as the night wore on, silence enveloped the worried hearts of Joni's loved ones. Brian and Joni vanished into thin air, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a void that echoed with their absence. Joni's family members were quick to notice the mysterious disappearance of the couple. They immediately headed to Brian and Joni's luxurious home on Coleraine Pike, where they discovered their belongings meticulously laid out: clothes, medications, credit cards, money, and other essentials. It was evident that the couple never made it back home. Following Brian and Joni's usual routine, the family deduced that they must have gone to Pizza Hut. After reviewing the surveillance footage at the Pizza Hut, it became clear that the couple did not continue on National Road through Bridgeport. The family speculated that they might have taken Interstate 70 to Route 214 or Charmont Road. Without hesitation, Joni's family decided to alert the Belmont County Sheriff's Office about the missing couple. When questioned about Brian and Joni's appearance and whereabouts, the family described Brian as a 5-foot, 10-inch tall man, weighing approximately 190 pounds, while Joni was a 5-foot, 2-inch tall woman, weighing around 138 pounds. Joni's sister's fiancé, Paul Newell, shared details about the Pizza Hut surveillance video, emphasizing that the couple wouldn't have embarked on a spontaneous trip. Armed with this information, the Belmont County Sheriff's Department launched a thorough investigation. Despite a week of relentless search efforts by both officials and family members, Brian and Joni remained elusive. While rumors of a murder-suicide circulated in Ohio, Joni's family remained steadfast in their belief that the couple was still alive. The search continued for over 9 days, with the family collaborating closely with law enforcement. Finally, a breakthrough came when surveillance footage from a local gas station indicated that Brian and Joni were last seen heading north. Convinced that the investigation needed to shift in that direction, the family's hopes were reignited when officials traced Brian's cell phone to their last known location. The cell phone's final ping was detected in the vicinity of Little Rush Run, near the Rayland Marina in Ohio. Consequently, authorities conducted multiple searches for Brian and Joni in that specific area. A reward of $5,000 was offered by the sheriff's offices in Jefferson and Belmont counties for any information that could lead to locating the missing couple. Both law enforcement agencies utilized aerial surveillance and surface searches with trained K-9s since the summer of 2018. Even Martins Ferry councilman closely monitored the case, hoping for a miraculous return of the two individuals. Yet unfortunately, no leads emerged. Despite Ohio experiencing all seasons, the grieving family's sorrow remained unchanged. Joni's family members simply desired closure. After 3.5 years since Brian and Joni's disappearance, the Chaos Divers arrived at the Ohio River to search for Karen Adams, drawing attention to the couple's case. As many are aware, Chaos Divers are altruistic individuals who initially began as an environmental cleanup group to enhance aquatic life, eventually evolving into selfless heroes. The diving angels firmly believed that individuals who had been missing with a vehicle for an extended period had a high likelihood of being located in the water. Initially encountering people by chance, they now purposefully travel across the country, striving to provide closure to families of the missing, which is their ultimate goal. Upon learning about Brian and Joni, the diving team in the area was determined not to depart for Illinois without attempting to locate them. The real-life diving angels meticulously gathered all available information regarding the couple's last known whereabouts and cell phone pings. Confirming the last location to be in the vicinity of Little Rush Run, the Chaos Divers recognized the Ohio River as the closest body of water. Subsequently, the diving teams resolved to search for Brian and Joni there. This significant event took place on November 11, 2021. The Chaos Divers team, equipped with their motorboats, embarked on a mission to locate Brian and Joni. Utilizing their sonar technology and magnet, they successfully located the vehicle. As the diving angels plunged into the water, the sky gradually darkened. Promptly, they informed the FBI, Ohio Bureau Criminal Investigation Crime Scene Unit, and Jefferson County officials. A thorough discussion ensued regarding the vehicle's recovery, culminating in a plan to extract it from the water the next day. At dawn in Ohio, the diving angels discovered that the license plate belonged to a light blue 1990 Oldsmobile 88 four-door sedan. The sedan was submerged in 8 feet of water, approximately 15 feet from the shoreline, with the missing couple still strapped in their seatbelts. Remarkably, the vehicle was found just a mile south of where the couple's cell phone had last pinged. With meticulous care, the Jefferson County officials and Chaos Divers successfully retrieved the car, along with the human remains. Autopsies were deemed necessary to confirm identities and determine the causes of death, as mentioned by the officials. A team of forensic experts was slated to process the vehicle for evidence collection. Subsequently, the medical examiner confirmed the identities of the deceased as Brian and Joni. The discovery of their bodies, after more than 3 years of being missing, provided closure to the case. The law enforcement officers developed a friendly rapport with the Chaos Divers team, with one of the sheriffs even treating the diving angels to dinner. Additionally, the Toronto Fire Department's assistance with cylinder refills was a heartwarming gesture. The Chaos Divers truly deserved recognition for bringing relief to the family members, who can now find solace in knowing that their loved ones are no longer missing.